You know, not everybody that celebrates Thanksgiving is able to do it with a full family. Sometimes they have to do it by themselves. I feel like there's plenty of content out there on how to make a full meal for a big family for Thanksgiving, but I don't see too much on how to make single serving stuff like this, so I figured I would make a video about it. Everybody who wants to deserves to celebrate Thanksgiving and enjoy it. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a few Thanksgiving staples, but friendly for like 1 or 2 people. To be more specific, these recipes are going to aim to make 2 really large dinner portions. So if you're eating this alone, you still get to have those Thanksgiving leftovers that everybody loves. We're going to make some turkey, some mac and cheese, some mashed sweet potatoes, some oven roasted Brussels sprouts, and then for dessert, some pecan pie. I'm not going to make any stuffing or cranberry sauce just because those aren't my favorite, but these are just some ideas. So starting with the turkey, a really good hack if you don't want to buy a 20-pound turkey or you don't have enough people to feed. Most grocery stores sell separate turkey legs this time of year and they're great for this application. Arguably the best part of the turkey anyway, and pretty easy to cook. So with all the food we're eating, one of these is pretty good for one person. Ideally, if you can start this the day before, then you can make these a lot better. I start by getting them covered in some kosher salt. And again, if you're starting the day before, then you can stick this in the fridge and let it dry brine overnight. That's going to help the interior of the turkey be flavored more and the outside be able to crisp up better. But if you're like me and doing this on the same day, then no problem, we can move on. I forgot to add some olive oil before the salt, but I'm adding it here. It'll add a little bit of flavor, but also promote even browning. Then I'm going to add a quick dry herb rub that I whipped up. I combined equal parts, maybe a tablespoon or so of each fresh ground black pepper, some dried rosemary, and some dried thyme and dried sage. And then I just pressed a couple of cloves of garlic into this as well and mixed it up. Get that rubbed all around the turkey legs. That's going to help flavor the skin, which in our case is basically going to flavor the whole leg. Mop up whatever you can on the plate or cutting board, and then we can stick this into an oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. My advice is to let these roast on an oven rack uncovered until the skin is nicely browned. I would flip them over about 20 minutes in just to make sure both sides get even browning. And once it's brown to your liking, you can take a thermometer and check the temperature. You're looking for at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. This is dark meat, so it's a little more forgiving than the breast. You don't have to take it out exactly at that temperature. But if it's under that temperature at this point and the skin is brown enough, then you want to cover these in some foil and cook until it reaches that temperature. You just don't want to keep cooking the outside until it burns, so that's why we cover it. In my case, the internal was cooked at the same time the outside was brown, so I took it out at this point. It took about 50 minutes in total, a little under an hour. And one of the goat side dishes to pair with turkey on Thanksgiving is sweet potatoes. I'm going to do these instead of mashed regular potatoes, because with those potatoes I'd like to have some gravy, and you need a whole turkey to make a really good gravy. This is a good trade-off. So I'm peeling 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes, and here's a tip, all of your peelers come with this little eye scraper on it. So after peeling, you can dig out whatever eyes remain and be on your merry way. I'm going to chop these up into medium-sized pieces just so they can cook evenly. I'm adding a little salt to a pot of boiling water and then adding in my sweet potatoes. You're just going to let those cook until they're tender, until you can poke it with a knife. This usually takes somewhere around 15 minutes. At that point, you can strain them and dump them back into the dry pot. At that point, you'll add a couple tablespoons each of butter and maple syrup, which I didn't realize my camera wasn't recording, but shout out to Canada for this maple syrup that I picked up when I was there. Okay, I'm seasoning those to taste with some salt and a little bit of cinnamon and also brown sugar. And if I didn't forget, I was going to add some grated nutmeg because I think that would go well here as well. This is kind of going to give off sweet potato casserole vibes, but it'll still be savory and a really strong side dish. Once I mashed this up, I realized I wanted it to be a little smoother, so I dumped in a little bit of heavy cream. That's optional. But also, if you're going to have this sit a while before you eat, it's good to add that right before serving because it'll smoothen it back up. But that's a super smooth sweet potato mash that you're going to love. Now moving on to my all-time favorite side dish, mac and cheese. Specifically baked mac and cheese, which I think is superior to stovetop. And I've said countless times on this channel that I'm not a big fan of roux-based mac and cheeses. I just prefer using sodium citrate, which is built into most processed cheeses. And moreover, I usually follow Adam Ragusia's baked mac and cheese recipe. It's never let me down and it's super simple. However, as fate would have it, Ethan Chabowski posted a mac and cheese video the morning that I was filming this. I'll link it below, but he convinced me to supplement some extra sharp cheddar cheese with the American cheese. So that's what I'll be doing here too to see if that helps. So into some salted water, I'm going to start by boiling 1/3 pound or 150 grams of dry shells. In hindsight, that's a little more than I needed for 2 portions, so I'm going to re-estimate below what I think is good for 2. While that's going, I'm going to get my cheese sauce started, which is going to start with almost a full can of evaporated milk. It's supposed to provide a little smoother texture than whole milk. I start by adding a couple tablespoons of butter, and then I'll add 75 grams each of that shredded extra sharp cheddar cheese and then American cheese. Just stirring that over medium heat until it all melts together and emulsifies. I add a few seasonings as well. In this case, I just did some white pepper, some dry mustard, and then some garlic powder. Once I drain the pasta, I'm adding that into an 8x8 baking dish and then pouring over the cheese sauce until it's covered and mixing that around. This goes into the oven at 375 Fahrenheit to set and bake for like 30 to 45 minutes. Just when it stops looking so soupy, you know it's done. And for added measure, I'm going to take this out and put it into a nicer serving ramekin and then stick that under the broiler for a few minutes to get some good charring on top. That's all optional, but I have a thumbnail to take here. That's a beautifully creamy baked mac and cheese that gets a little bit more complex flavor from the extra sharp cheddar cheese, but the fact that it's not based in a butter and flour roux and also the fact that it has American cheese helps it not to be grainy. Moving right along to some crispy balsamic glazed Brussels sprouts. You could definitely do a more sophisticated vegetable dish or a bigger medley of mixed roasted vegetables, but I figure since we're aiming for a simple single serving meal, this fits the bill. I've got a bag of maybe a cup and a half of Brussels sprouts that I've taken that outer layer off of, and then I'm just trimming the stem off of them and then cutting them in half. I'm going to get these into a bowl and douse them in some olive oil and add salt and pepper and toss. Meanwhile, I had a baking sheet in the oven just preheating at 425F for about 15 minutes, which I'll grab and then place the Brussels sprouts cut side down on. Those will roast in the oven until they're browned all over. Give them some time to get some nice color and charring on the outside, maybe like 20 minutes. That's where all their beautiful flavor will come from. While they're cooking, you can mix together the really simple balsamic glaze. It's just equal parts, maybe a couple tablespoons each of balsamic vinegar and honey. Mix that well so it's homogeneous, and when the Brussels sprouts are done, you can get them into a bowl and douse them in the balsamic glaze. Toss those up again and add more salt if needed, and this is your really simple crispy Brussels sprouts. These went viral over the last few years for good reason. They're amazing. So our meal is almost complete. All we have left to do is make dessert. Surprisingly, this is going to be the easiest dish to make out of them all. I love pecan pie, and last year I made one from scratch and it was a lot of work, but the one we make today is going to be 100 times easier and it'll be enough to just feed one or two. So for my pie crust, I'm just going to grab 2 sheets of graham crackers and get them into a plastic bag. I crush them up with a meat mallet, and this is a really simple way to get a pie crust. Now for the filling, I'll grab a bowl and combine the following. About 30 grams or a couple tablespoons of melted butter. 100 grams or about a half cup of brown sugar. Then I bought some dark corn syrup for this because it'll match the color of the filling better, but it won't affect the flavor, so if you have light, you can use that as well. Just a couple tablespoons of that. Then that last little bit of maple syrup that I had, which is about a tablespoon. You could use all corn syrup or all maple syrup in this case, and either is fine. Then a splash of vanilla extract, a small pinch of salt, and then a whole egg. And lastly, about 50 grams or a half cup of chopped pecans. Whisk all that together until it's mostly homogeneous and the egg is beaten up. I'm grabbing a small bowl for this and then adding half of those graham cracker crumbs and then pouring in half the filling. This recipe makes 2 of these. And then surprisingly, this goes straight into the microwave.
Dude, it's Thanksgiving. You can't be doing microwave recipe. Hey, nice haircut, bro.
Thanks, man. I really needed it.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna criticize me or mess with me?
Isn't that the same haircut you've had since you were born?
Oh my goodness.
Live a little, man.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Where do you even go?
Wonder Cuts? Why? Come on, dude.
Wait, you're not joking? Wonder Cuts?
Yeah, every haircut of my entire life.
Okay, I feel bad for laughing. Like, I thought you were kidding.
This is why I'm doing Thanksgiving alone, FYI. I just let it go for 30-second intervals until it's done. Just be careful because if you let it go too long undisturbed, then it'll start bubbling over the top. But mine was finished after about 1 minute and 10 seconds. You know it's done when the filling is mostly set, but it still kind of jiggles when you move the bowl. You'll honestly be amazed at how well this filling comes out from the microwave. I promise it's worth a shot. I'm just garnishing with some whole pecans on top to make a pretty design, and then this isn't complete without a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top. That melting over the warm pie is absolute heaven. Whipped cream is another good option if you want to do that. Okay, and that's it. Congratulations, you've completed your single-serving Thanksgiving meal. You have a second portion of all this to immediately place in the fridge to have some leftovers for tomorrow, but here's some really deep flavors that go well together and remind you of the holidays. And realistically, this only takes a few hours of work. I promise it's so worth it. If you don't usually make a nice meal for Thanksgiving because you don't have a big family to eat with or for whatever reason, I hope this can give you a reason to try it once and treat yourself. Let's dive right into the taste test. I'm excited for this one. So I'm very blessed to be able to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family, but I definitely understand those that aren't able to and have to do it alone. I'm very used to doing things alone as well, so I would definitely like to keep content centered around that. But this whole thing came together from an idea to going to the grocery store to preparing everything to sitting here after filming and taking pictures in about 4 hours total. It's really not bad for a Thanksgiving holiday. Like I said, you could dry brine these turkey legs overnight and it would be even better. But it just goes to show you that a little bit of work and a little bit of time can get you some really nice results. So of course, let's dive in and taste everything, starting with one of these turkey legs. Incredible. When you don't have to focus on all the different parts of the bird and making sure that some parts don't overcook while other parts undercook, you can get some really good results from a store-bought turkey leg in just like an hour. The seasoning hits, all those herbs make me think of Thanksgiving in the holiday season. And yes, the dry brine would have flavored the inside a little bit more, but this is still well acceptable. Going into those crispy Brussels sprouts. I mean, these are just a weeknight staple. They take almost no work and they hit every time. Just make sure you let them sit in the oven long enough to get all that browning on them. Now we've got our mashed sweet potatoes. These things look amazing. They're beautifully sweet, but not too sweet to feel like a dessert. They still feel like a main course. And I opted to do these instead of regular mashed potatoes because I didn't make a full turkey where I could make stock and gravy. So I think making these is a little bit nicer in this scenario. And yes, I'm a sucker for mac and cheese. This is probably my favorite part of any kind of holiday meal. I do really like the addition of the extra sharp cheddar in this. I think I'm going to be doing that going forward. I would probably add a little bit more evaporated milk next time to make a higher ratio of liquid, because I guess with the drier cheese, this gets drier at the end. But still undeniably game-changing. This is always going to be better than a roux-based mac and cheese in my opinion. Thank you, Adam, and also Ethan for this. And yeah, normally I'd save the dessert for the end of my meal, but I'm just going through and taste testing everything. So I love pecan pie. Isn't she lovely? Definitely doesn't look like this was made in a microwave. Wow. I've made my fair share of microwave desserts, microwave cookies and brownies and mug cakes. I genuinely can't tell the difference between this and most pecan pies that I've tried. I was worried about putting the egg in the microwave, but honestly there were no ill effects from that. It's dangerous information for me to know how easy that is to make. But there you have it. Here's some ideas that you can make if you're doing Thanksgiving alone, or honestly if you're just doing a small get together. I just hope everybody watching this is able to find time to take a break and reflect on everything. Definitely treat yourself. Again, if you're able to visit with your family, please do that. But if you're not, this is a good way to fill up your time, or you can just go out and treat yourself to your favorite foods, but just be kind to yourself. I'm thankful for all of you, and I wanted to mention that this time of year. It's been a really slow couple of years for my channel personally. Pretty discouraging at many points, but I've got a little bit of traction in the last month or so, and that's been pretty motivating, so I'm trying to do what I can to keep this train going. I'm very close to the goal that I had of getting to monetization. It's taken me a really long time, but I think we might get there very soon. But aside from all that, I just appreciate all you spending your time with me and commenting, watching the videos, and hopefully you're getting something out of it. But anyway, I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you all for watching. Be blessed, and I'll see you next time. Maybe next year we'll do the turducken. I hope you all have a Thappy Thanksgiving.